Captain Jake Morrison stood quietly on the bridge of his ship, the UES Horizon. The large screen in front of him showed pictures from Colony 7, and what he saw made his hands clench into fists. Buildings were burning. People were running. The Zephyrian ships hung in the sky like dark clouds, shooting down at anything that moved. "Sir, we're getting reports from all over the colony," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Ben Parker. "The aliens hit the hospital first, then the schools. They're not trying to capture anything. They just want to destroy." Jake nodded slowly. This was the 15th human colony the Zephyrians had attacked in 3 months. Each time they came. Without warning. Each time they left nothing but ruins behind. The worst part was that Earth's government kept telling everyone to stay calm, to trust in the peace talks. "How many dead this time?" Jake asked. "At least 3,000 confirmed, sir. But the rescue teams can't reach half the colony yet." Jake turned away from the screen. He walked to the window that looked out into space. Stars filled the darkness, and somewhere among them, more human colonies were probably being attacked right now. The Zephyrians thought they were winning. They thought humans were weak. They had no idea how wrong they were. On Earth, in a building that looked like any other office complex, Ambassador Lisa Turner sat across from 3 Zephyrian delegates. The aliens looked like walking crystals. Their bodies made of some kind of living rock that changed colors when they spoke. Right now, they were all showing bright red, which Lisa had learned meant they were angry or excited. "The attacks on our colonies must stop," Lisa said calmly, her voice steady despite the anger burning in her chest. "We are willing to discuss any disagreements through peaceful means." The lead Zephyrian, who called himself Speaker Vextai, made a sound that might have been laughter. His crystal body flashed from red to yellow. "Your species is pathetic," he said through the translator device. "You beg for peace while we destroy your children. You offer to talk while we take your worlds. We will have your home planet within 1 cycle, and your people will serve us as slaves." Lisa's face showed nothing. She had been trained for this. She had been trained to smile and nod and keep talking even when every word made her want to scream. "I urge you to reconsider. Humanity values life above all else. We don't want war." "You don't want war because you cannot fight," Speaker Vextai replied. "We have seen your military, small ships with weak weapons. You are farmers and merchants, not warriors. Your time is ending." After the meeting, Lisa walked through the halls of the building. To anyone watching, she looked like she was going to her office to file another report. Instead, she took an elevator that went down much further than any normal office building would need. The doors opened to reveal a room full of screens, computers, and people in military uniforms. General Paul Stevens looked up as she entered. "How did it go?" "Same as always," Lisa said, finally letting her real feelings show on her face. "They think we're helpless. They think we're too weak to fight back." "Good," the general said. "Let them keep thinking that." "How much longer do we need?" Lisa checked her watch. "Intelligence says they're moving their main fleet toward Earth. If they follow their usual pattern, they'll be here in 2 weeks. Perfect. That gives us time to get everyone in position." As General Stevens turned to look at the largest screen in the room, it showed a map of human space with red dots marking every place the Zephyrians had attacked. They've been so focused on these small colonies that they haven't noticed what we've been building. "Sir," said Colonel Mike Davis, walking over with a tablet in his hands, "we just got word from the shipyards. The last of the hidden weapons are being installed. Every ship in the fleet is ready, and the ground forces, all civilian populations, have been evacuated from the target zones. The volunteers are in position. Everyone knows what to do when the signal comes." Lisa looked at the screen showing Colony 7. The fires were still burning. "Those people died believing we couldn't protect them. Those people died so that billions of others could live," General Stevens said quietly. "The Zephyrians had to believe we were defenseless. If they knew what we were really capable of, they would have brought allies. They would have been more careful. Instead, they're bringing their entire fleet to finish us off," Colonel Davis added. "Just like we hoped they would." On the bridge, Of the U's horizon, Jake Morrison received a message that only he could read. It was short and simple. Phase 1 complete. Prepare for Phase 2. Remember, keep acting helpless until the final signal. Jake deleted the message and looked around his bridge. His crew was good, but they didn't know the truth. They thought they were just another exploration ship with light weapons and scientific equipment. They thought they were running away from the Zephyrians because they had no idea that the Horizon was actually one of the most powerful warships ever built. They didn't know that the scientific equipment in the cargo bays was actually enough firepower to destroy a small moon. They didn't know that Jake had been trained not just as the explorer, but as a weapon of war. "Sir," said Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster, his science officer, "we're receiving a general broadcast from Earth Command. They want all ships to fall back to the inner system." "Understood." "Set course for Earth," Jake replied, "and broadcast our compliance on all channels. Make sure any Zephyrian ships monitoring." "Yes, no, we're retreating." As the Horizon turned toward Earth, Jake thought about the plan that had been years in the making. The Zephyrians weren't the first alien species humans had encountered. They weren't even the strongest. But they were the first to mistake human kindness for weakness. They were the first to think that because humans preferred peace, they were incapable of war. The truth was much more complicated. Humans had learned from their first contact with aliens that the galaxy was a dangerous place. Some species only understood strength. Some species saw kindness as an invitation to attack. So humanity had made a choice. They would appear weak and peaceful on the surface, while building something much more powerful underneath. The Zephyrians had been watching human ships for months, studying their weapons and defenses. What they saw were lightly armed vessels designed for exploration and trade. They had no idea that these same ships could transform into instruments of destruction at the push of a button. They had been watching human colonies, seeing peaceful farmers and merchants who seemed unable to defend themselves. They had no idea that many of these civilians were actually soldiers waiting for orders. They had been listening to human communications, hearing desperate pleas for peace and offers of surrender. They had no idea that every word was carefully chosen to make them more confident, more careless. In 2 weeks, the Zephyrian fleet would arrive at Earth, expecting to find a broken and defeated enemy. Instead, they would learn the most important lesson in the galaxy: never mistake human courtesy for human weakness. The last warning had been sent. The trap was set. Soon, the Zephyrians would discover what happened when humans stopped pretending to be polite. Deep beneath the Colorado mountains, Dr. Amanda Foster worked through her third straight night without sleep. The laboratory around her hummed with activity as dozens of scientists and engineers made final adjustments to humanity's greatest secret. Project Nightfall had been 5 years in the making, and now they had less than 2 weeks to complete it. "Amanda, you need to see this," called Dr. Gary Miller from across the room. He was standing next to a device that looked like a small metal box, but Amanda knew it contained enough power to level a city. "The fusion core is stable. We're getting 97% efficiency." Amanda walked over and checked the readings herself. The numbers were perfect, too perfect. "Run the test again," she said. "I want to be absolutely sure." "Amanda, we've run it 50 times. "It works. Run it 51 times, she replied firmly. "When we use these weapons, there won't be a second chance if something goes wrong." Gary nodded and started the test sequence again. Around them, other teams worked on different parts of the project. Some were building new types of ammunition that could punch through Zephyrian shields. Others were creating guidance systems that could track alien ships across vast distances. Still others were working on the most important part of all, making sure none of this technology looked like what it actually was. The Zephyrians had been studying human technology for months. They had captured some of humanity's smaller weapons and learned how they work. They thought they understood what humans were capable of. They had no idea that everything they had seen was deliberately primitive, designed to make them overconfident. "Dr. Foster," said a voice behind her. She turned to see Colonel Steve Parker, one of the military liaisons assigned to the project. I need to know when the first batch will be ready for deployment. The prototype weapons are ready now, Amanda said. But I want to run more tests on the mass-produced versions. We can't afford any failures. We don't have time for more tests. Intelligence reports say the Zephyrian main fleet is moving faster than expected. They could be here in 10 days instead of 14. Amanda felt her stomach drop. 10 days? That's not enough time to equip every ship? It has to be enough time, Colonel Parker said. We're not going to get another chance like this. The Zephyrians are bringing everything they have. If we don't stop them now, there won't be a later. Across the galaxy and the hidden colonies that the Zephyrians didn't know existed, other preparations were taking place. On Colony Bravo 7, disguised as a mining operation, Captain Danny Martinez supervised the loading of his squadron's fighters. The ships looked like standard human patrol craft, but that was just another lie. How many more? He asked his crew chief, Sergeant Lisa Brooks. 36 ships loaded and ready, sir. The weapons are hidden in the cargo compartments, just like the others. Danny nodded and looked at his pilots. They were all volunteers, all people who had lost family or friends to Zephyrian attacks. They knew this mission would probably be their last, but none of them had hesitated to sign up. Remember, he told them, we have to act like we're running away until the signal comes. No matter what the Zephyrians do to us, no matter how much they hurt us, we keep running. We keep looking scared. The moment they realize what we really are, the whole plan falls apart. What if some of us don't make it to the signal? Asked Lieutenant Curran Davis, one of his youngest pilots. Then the rest of us carry on, Danny said. Simply, this is bigger than any of us. This is about making sure humanity survives. Back on Earth, Ambassador Lisa Turner was preparing for what she knew would be her final meeting with the Zephyrian delegates. The aliens had become more aggressive. In recent days, making demands instead of discussing terms. They wanted humanity to surrender unconditionally, to hand over all their technology and resources without a fight. We require your answer today, Speaker Vextai said as soon as Lisa entered the room. His crystal body was flashing bright red. And the other two delegates were doing the same. Submit to our rule, or we will destroy your homeworld as we destroyed your colonies. Lisa sat down calmly and placed her hands on the table. I've been authorized to make one final offer, she said. We will give you mining rights to 3 uninhabited systems. We will share our agricultural technology with you. We will even pay tribute of raw materials for the next 10 years. All we ask is that you stop attacking our people. The 3 Zephyrians made that sound that might have been laughter. You still don't understand, Speaker Vextai said. We don't want to trade with you. We don't want to coexist with you. We want you gone. Your species is weak and pathetic. You take up space that stronger beings could use. I see, Lisa said quietly. And there's nothing I can say to change your mind? Nothing. Your military is a joke. Your weapons are primitive. Your people run and hide instead of fighting. You will make good slaves for those who survive our final attack. Lisa stood up slowly. Then I have only one thing left to say. She looked directly at Speaker Vextai, and for the first time in months, she smiled. You have been warned. The Zephyrian delegates looked confused. They had never seen a human smile like that before. There was something in Lisa's expression that made them uncomfortable, though they couldn't say what. Warned about what? Speaker Vextai asked. You'll find out soon enough, Lisa said, and walked out of the room. An hour later, Lisa stood in the underground command center, watching as the final preparations were made. General Paul Stevens was coordinating with military units across human space. Colonel Mike Davis was overseeing the loading of the last weapon shipments. Everyone moved with the quiet efficiency of people who had trained for this moment for years. Are we really ready? Lisa asked the general. As ready as we can be, he replied. The Zephyrians have committed their entire fleet to this attack. Every ship they have is coming here. If we can destroy them, we'll have eliminated the threat permanently. And if we can't? General Stevens was quiet for a moment. Then humanity dies fighting instead of dying on its knees, Lisa nodded. She had known this day would come eventually. Humanity had always been good at surviving, but they had learned that sometimes survival required more than just being tough. Sometimes it required being smart. Sometimes it required being willing to do things that seemed impossible. "The final message is ready," Colonel Davis reported. "All ships are in position. All ground forces are ready. All hidden weapons are armed." "And waiting, and the civilians?" "Evacuated from all target zones. The ones who couldn't be moved have been placed in hardened shelters. They'll be safe as long as we do our job." Lisa looked at the screen showing the approaching Zephyrian fleet. Hundreds of ships, all of them bigger and more heavily armed than anything humanity had ever shown them. The aliens were confident, maybe even excited. They thought they were about to witness the end of the human race. They had no idea they were flying into the greatest trap in galactic history. "Send the final warning," General Stevens ordered. Lisa picked up the microphone that would broadcast her words across the galaxy. She thought about all the people who had died in the Zephyrian attacks. She thought about all the people who were counting on her to get this right. She thought about the future of humanity itself. "This is Ambassador Lisa Turner of Earth," she said into the microphone. "To the Zephyrian High Command and all who would threaten humanity, cease your attacks immediately and withdraw from human space. This is your final warning. Continue your aggression and we will stop pretending to be courteous." The message was sent. The trap was complete. Now, all they had to do was wait for the Zephyrians to make their final mistake. The moment Earth's final warning ended, Captain Jake Morrison felt something change aboard the UES Horizon. It started as a low vibration in the deck plates, then grew stronger as systems that had been hidden for years began to come online. Around him, his crew looked confused as new displays appeared on their control panels and warning lights began flashing in patterns they had never seen before. "Sir, what's happening?" asked Lieutenant Ben Parker, his voice tight with worry. "The ship's computer is showing systems I've never seen before." Jake walked to the center of the bridge and placed his hand on a panel that none of his crew had ever noticed. The panel scanned his palm, then his eyes, then beeped softly. Immediately, the walls around them began to move. What had looked like solid metal panels slid away to reveal weapon controls, tactical displays, and armor plating that gleamed like black mirrors. "All hands, this is the captain," Jake announced over the ship's communication system. "What you are seeing is the truth. The UES Horizon is not an exploration vessel. She is a Dreadnought-class warship, and we are her crew. For the past 3 years, we have been pretending to be something we are not. That pretense ends now." Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster stared at the tactical display that had appeared in front of her science station. Instead of showing normal space readings, it displayed weapon trajectories, target acquisition systems, and something labeled Planet Killer Array Status. Armed. "Sir," she said slowly, "this display is showing enough firepower to destroy a small moon." "How is that possible?" "Because that's exactly what we carry," Jake replied. "Every ship in the human fleet has been disguised. Every weapon we've shown the Zephyrians has been a fake. They think they know what we're capable of. They're about to learn how wrong they are." Across the solar system, similar transformations were happening on hundreds of ships. The UES Defender, which had been posing as a cargo hauler, revealed missile tubes that could launch planet-cracking warheads. The UES Guardian, disguised as a medical ship, showed its true nature as a stealth attack vessel with weapons that could slice through Zephyrian shields like paper. On the edge of the solar system, Commander Lisa Brooks watched her sensors as the Zephyrian invasion fleet approached. There were over 300 alien ships, all of them moving in perfect formation toward Earth. They had no idea that they were being watched by human vessels that had been waiting in the dark for weeks. "All ships, this is Commander Brooks," she transmitted on the hidden military channel. "The enemy fleet is approaching the outer marker. Remember, we maintain our cover until the final signal. No matter what they do to us, no matter how many of us they kill, we keep acting helpless until the moment we strike." The first Zephyrian ships entered the solar system like conquering heroes. They had expected to find human ships fleeing in. Panic, maybe a few desperate attempts at resistance. Instead, they found what looked like a completely normal star system. With human vessels going about their regular business, War Leader Thexai stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crushing Fist. His crystalline body pulsed with satisfied yellow light as he surveyed the human ships on his display. They were exactly as pathetic as he had expected. Small, weak, and running away the moment they detected his fleet. "Begin the attack," he commanded. "Target their largest vessels first. I want the humans to watch their strongest ships die before we finish them." The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with a devastating barrage. Beams of energy that could melt through solid rock struck the human ships, and explosions bloomed across the darkness of space. On his display, War Leader Thexai watched human vessel after human vessel explode into fragments of metal and fire. "Excellent," he said. "Their defenses are even weaker than we thought. At this rate, we'll have destroyed their entire fleet within the hour." But something was wrong. The human ships were dying exactly as expected, but they were also transmitting something. Emergency signals, distress calls, and what sounded like desperate pleas for help. Zephyrians had heard these transmissions before from other species. They had conquered, but there was something different about these. "War Leader," said his communications officer, "the human transmissions are strange. They keep repeating the same phrase over and over." "What phrase?" "Phase 1 complete. Awaiting Phase 2 authorization." War Leader Thexai felt a flicker of unease. "Phase 1? Phase 2? What are they talking about?" Before anyone could answer, every human ship in the solar system suddenly stopped running. They turned to face the Zephyrian fleet, and as they did, their true nature was revealed. Hull plates slid away to show massive weapon arrays. Cargo bays opened to release clouds of fighters that had been hiding inside. Ships that had looked like helpless civilian vessels transformed into instruments of war. "Impossible, War Leader," Thexai whispered. "This is impossible." The first human counterattack came from the ships that had been destroyed in the initial Zephyrian assault. They rose from the debris fields like ghosts, their hulls scarred but intact. The explosions had been fake, created by devices designed to fool Zephyrian sensors. The ships had been playing dead while maneuvering into perfect attack positions. "Captain," Jake Morrison's voice echoed across all frequencies as the UES Horizon revealed her true power. "This is Captain Morrison of the Terran Defense Force. You have been warned. You chose to ignore that warning. Now you will learn what happens when humans stop being polite." The Horizon's main guns fired for the first time, and the energy beams that emerged were unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. Instead of the weak pulses they expected from human weapons, these were focused streams of destruction that could cut through Zephyrian armor like it was paper. The first alien ship to be hit simply ceased to exist, vaporized so completely that not even debris remained. War Leader Thexai watched in horror as more human ships opened fire. Each beam that struck his fleet eliminated another vessel. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were winning. And they were doing it with an efficiency that spoke of careful planning and overwhelming technological superiority. "All ships, emergency retreat," he commanded. "Fall back to the outer system. We need to regroup and assess the situation." But the Zephyrian fleet discovered that retreat was not an option. The human ships that had been hiding in the asteroid belt and behind the outer planets now revealed themselves. The alien fleet was surrounded, caught in a trap that had been years in the making. Commander Lisa Brooks led the second wave of the attack, her stealth ships appearing out of nowhere to strike at the Zephyrian rearguard. "This is for Colony 7, she transmitted as her weapons tore through enemy hull plating. "This is for every human you murdered while we were being diplomatic." The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The Zephyrians had brought their entire fleet, expecting to crush a weak and defenseless enemy. Instead, they found themselves facing an opponent that had spent years preparing for this exact moment. Every human ship knew exactly where to be and when to fire. Every weapon had been designed specifically to counter Zephyrian technology. In the space of 30 minutes, the most powerful military force in the galaxy was reduced to scattered debris and desperate survivors. The few Zephyrian ships that remained intact were too damaged to fight and too slow to escape. War leader HFY found himself staring at a communication request from the humans. With his flagship crippled and his fleet destroyed, he had no choice but to accept it. Captain Jake Morrison's face appeared on the screen, and for the first time, War Leader HFY saw a human's true expression. There was no fear, no desperation, no pleading for mercy. There was only cold, calculating intelligence and the satisfaction of a predator that had successfully hunted its prey. War Leader HFY, Captain Morrison said calmly, I believe you have something to discuss with us. War Leader HFY stared at the human on his screen, trying to understand what had just happened. His mighty fleet, the pride of the Zephyrian Empire, lay in ruins around him. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were now nothing but floating scrap metal. The beings he had thought were weak and helpless had destroyed his forces in less than an hour. You tricked us, he said, his crystal body flashing dark blue with what humans had learned meant confusion and fear. Your ships, your weapons, everything we saw was a lie? Captain Jake Morrison nodded slowly. Everything you saw was exactly what we wanted you to see. We've been planning this for 5 years, ever since we first learned about your species. We knew that sooner or later you would decide to attack us. We wanted to make sure you would bring everything you had. Why? War Leader HFY asked. Why not just show us your true strength from the beginning? We might have chosen to leave you alone. Because that's not how your people work, Jake replied. We studied you. We learned about every species you've conquered. You don't negotiate with equals. You don't respect strength. You only understand overwhelming force. So we gave you what you needed to see until we were ready to show you the truth. On the surface of Earth, the populations that had been hiding in shelters began to emerge. They had been told that the attack was coming, that they needed to stay underground until the all-clear signal was given. Now, as they looked up at the night sky, they could see the flashes of light that marked the end of the Zephyrian threat. Major Tim Russell led his troops out of the hidden bunkers where they had been waiting. For weeks, they had watched Zephyrian scout ships fly overhead, taking pictures and making maps. The aliens had thought they were seeing frightened civilians hiding from their mighty fleet. They had no idea they were looking at some of the most dangerous soldiers in human space. All units, this is Major Russell, he broadcast to his forces. Phase 3 is now active. You know what to do? Across the planet, what the Zephyrians had thought were civilian shelters open to reveal military equipment that had been hidden for months. Anti-aircraft guns rose from fake farmhouses. Missile launchers emerged from artificial hills. Tanks rolled out of buildings that had looked like ordinary warehouses. The few Zephyrian landing craft that had made it to Earth's surface found themselves facing an enemy that appeared out of nowhere. The helpless civilians they had come to capture were actually well-trained soldiers with weapons designed specifically to kill. Zephyrians? Sergeant Carl Thompson crouched behind a rock formation, watching a Zephyrian patrol move through what they thought was an abandoned town. The aliens were being careless, confident that any humans in the area would be too scared to fight. They had no idea that every building around them contained hidden soldiers. Target the leader first, Carl whispered into his radio. Then the communications specialist. We want them confused and unable to call for help. The ambush was over in seconds. The Zephyrian patrol never knew what hit them. Similar attacks were happening all over the planet as human forces eliminated the aliens, who had thought they were conducting a simple occupation. In space, Admiral Kate Sullivan had arrived aboard the UES Retribution, the flagship of humanity's real military fleet. The ship was massive, larger than anything the Zephyrians had ever built, and it carried enough firepower to destroy an entire solar system. As she surveyed the wreckage of the alien fleet, she felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. "Admiral," said Commander Tony Martinez, her tactical officer, "we're receiving surrender signals from the remaining Zephyrian ships. They're asking for terms." "Put me through to their leader," Kate ordered, War Leader Thexhi's image appeared on the main screen. His crystal body was dim now, the colors that had once shown his confidence and aggression replaced by the gray of defeat. "I am Admiral Sullivan of the Terran Defense Force," Kate announced. "You came to our system to destroy us. You failed. Now you will listen to our terms." "We surrender," War Leader Thexhi said quickly. "We will leave your space and never return. We will tell our people that humans are not to be attacked." "That's not enough," Admiral Sullivan replied. "You're not just going to leave. You're going to carry a message to every species in the galaxy. You're going to tell them exactly what happened here and why." On the bridge of the UES Horizon, Captain Jake Morrison was coordinating the cleanup operation. The space around Earth was filled with debris from destroyed Zephyrian ships, and it would take weeks to clear it all. But more importantly, they had captured dozens of alien survivors who would serve as witnesses to what had happened. "Sir," said Lieutenant Ben Parker, "we're getting reports from all over human space. Every hidden base has been activated. Every disguised ship has revealed its true nature. The Zephyrians have been completely eliminated from our territory." Jake nodded. "Good. Make sure every survivor understands what they've witnessed. I want them to go home with a very clear message." The message was simple but effective. Humanity had not been weak. They had been patient. They had not been unable to defend themselves. They had been choosing not to fight. But when forced to reveal their true nature, they had proven to be the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever seen. Dr. Amanda Foster watched from her laboratory as the final weapons were powered down. Project Nightfall had been a complete success. The technology they had developed in secret had performed exactly as designed. The Zephyrians had been completely outclassed. "We did it," said Dr. Gary Miller, collapsing into a chair. "We actually did it." "Yes," Amanda replied, "but this was just the beginning. Now every species in the galaxy knows that humans are not what they seem. Some will try to become our allies. Others will try to destroy us before we become too powerful. We need to be ready for both." The interrogation of the Zephyrian survivors revealed the full scope of their empire. They had conquered 17 different species, enslaved billions of beings, and destroyed entire civilizations. They had been planning to do the same to humanity. "Your people are monsters," Ambassador Lisa Turner told War Leader Thexhi during one of their sessions. "You've wiped out entire species for no reason other than that you could." "We are strong," War Leader Thexhi replied. "In the galaxy, the strong survive and the weak serve. That is the natural order." "No," Lisa said firmly. "That's not the natural order. That's just an excuse for cruelty. Strength should be used to protect, not to destroy. That's why we hid our power. That's why we only revealed it when we had no choice." The trials of the Zephyrian war criminals were broadcast across the galaxy. Species that had been conquered by the aliens watched as their oppressors were forced to account for their crimes. For the first time in centuries, there was hope that the galaxy might become a more peaceful place, but the most important moment came when War Leader Thexhi was forced to record a message that would be sent to every corner of known space. Standing in chains before a human tribunal, he delivered the words that would change galactic politics forever. "I am War Leader Thexhi of the Zephyrian Empire. I came to destroy the humans because I thought they were weak. I was wrong. They are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They let us attack them for months, let us kill their people, let us destroy their colonies, all so they could lure us into a trap. When they finally fought back, they destroyed our entire fleet in less than an hour. We who conquered 17 worlds were beaten by beings who had been pretending to be helpless. Do not make the same mistake we did. Do not attack the humans. They are not what they seem." The message was broadcast to every known species in the galaxy. Within days, diplomatic requests began arriving from civilizations that had never before acknowledged humanity's existence. The galaxy had learned its lesson about the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. 6 months after the battle that destroyed the Zephyrian Empire, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the command center of Luna Base, looking at a star map that showed the entire galaxy. Red dots marked the locations of former Zephyrian colonies. now free for the first time in centuries. Green dots showed human settlements, many of them no longer hidden. Blue dots represented the dozens of alien species that had sent diplomatic missions to Earth. "It's hard to believe how much has changed," said Admiral Kate Sullivan, joining him at the display. 6 months ago, we were pretending to be weak explorers. Now half the galaxy wants to form alliances with us. Jake nodded, pointing to a cluster of blue dots near the galactic center. The Altarian Republic sent another message today. They want to discuss a mutual defense treaty. Apparently, they've been fighting a war against the Krex Empire for 20 years, and they think human military technology could end it in their favor. And what did you tell them? The same thing I tell everyone. We'll consider helping species that are defending themselves against aggressors. We won't help anyone who wants to use our technology to attack others. The transformation of human space had been remarkable. Colonies that had been hiding their true nature for years were now openly displaying advanced technology. The mining operation on Colony Bravo 7 had revealed itself to be a massive shipyard capable of building dreadnoughts. The agricultural world of New Kansas had shown that its farms were actually testing grounds for terraforming technology that could turn dead planets into gardens. But the most important change was in how other species viewed humanity. The message that war leader Thexai had been forced to broadcast had spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within weeks, delegations from dozens of worlds had arrived at Earth, all of them wanting to understand what kind of beings humans really were. Ambassador Lisa Turner had been busy beyond belief, meeting with representatives from species she had never heard of before. The Velion Collective wanted to trade their crystal-growing technology for human defensive systems. The Aquatic Federation offered to share their underwater cities in exchange for human medical knowledge. The Free Worlds Alliance asked for help in establishing a galactic peacekeeping force. "The hardest part," Lisa explained to the Terran Council, "is convincing them that we're not planning to conquer the galaxy ourselves. They all assume that any species capable of destroying the Zephyrians must be planning their own empire." "Can you blame them?" asked General Paul Stevens. "For most of galactic history, military strength has meant conquest. The idea that a powerful species might choose to be peaceful is completely foreign to them." The council chamber was filled with the leaders of humanity, both military and civilian. They were discussing the most important question their species had ever faced: what to do with the power they had revealed. "We have 3 basic options," said President Carol Davis. "We can go back to hiding and pretend this never happened. We can use our technology to build an empire like the Zephyrians did, or we can try to create something new." "Going back to hiding isn't an option," said Admiral Sullivan. "Too many people know the truth now. And besides, there are other species out there that are just as aggressive as the Zephyrians were. If we hide again, someone else will eventually try to destroy us. Building an empire would make us no better than the aliens we just defeated," added Dr. Amanda Foster. "We didn't reveal our true nature just so we could become the galaxy's new oppressors." "Which leaves us with option 3, President Davis said. "We try to build something that's never existed before. A galactic community based on cooperation instead of conquest." It was an ambitious goal, maybe an impossible one. But as reports came in from across human space, it seemed like it might actually work on the former Zephyrian homeworld. Now called Liberty Prime, Captain Danny Martinez was overseeing the reconstruction efforts. The planet had been the center of a slave empire for centuries, and the scars ran deep. But the liberated populations were working together to build something better. "The Corvin people finished their new city yesterday," reported Lieutenant Corinne Davis. "It's the first city on this planet built by free beings in over 300 years. Danny looked out at the construction sites that dotted the horizon. Dozens of species that had been enslaved by the Zephyrians were now working together to rebuild their worlds. Human technology was helping, but the real work was being done by the people who had suffered under alien rule." Any word from the other liberated worlds? "All positive, sir. The former slave colonies are forming their own governments, establishing trade relationships and asking for human advisors to help them set up defensive systems. None of them want to be conquered again. The news from Earth's scientific community was equally encouraging. Dr. Amanda Foster's team had begun sharing selected human technologies with allied species, always with careful safeguards to prevent misuse. Medical technology that could cure diseases that had plagued alien populations for millennia. Agricultural systems that could feed billions. Communication networks that allowed species separated by vast distances to work together. The key, Dr. Foster explained to a gathering of alien scientists, is that we share technology that helps people, not technology that hurts them. We'll teach you to build hospitals, not weapons factories. We'll show you how to grow food, not how to destroy planets. But not everyone in the galaxy was happy with humanity's new role. Intelligence reports indicated that several aggressive species were forming alliances of their own, hoping to challenge human dominance before it became too strong. The savage clans had begun attacking human trade routes. The Machine Collective was building new types of weapons designed specifically to counter human technology. "They're making the same mistake the Zephyrians made," observed Colonel Steve Parker during a strategy meeting. "They think that because we choose to be peaceful, we're unable to defend ourselves. Should we take action against them?" asked General Stevens. "Not yet," replied Admiral Sullivan. "We'll give them the same chance we gave the Zephyrians. One clear warning, followed by overwhelming force if they don't listen." The warning came in the form of a simple message broadcast to every aggressive species in the galaxy. Captain Jennifer Adams of the Use of Vindication delivered it personally, her ship appearing in the home systems of each potential threat. "This is Captain Adams of the Terran Defense Force," she announced. "You have seen what happened to the Zephyrian Empire when they chose to attack humanity. We offer you the same choice we offered them. Coexist peacefully with your neighbors or face the consequences of your aggression. We will not attack you if you do not attack others. But if you choose the path of conquest, you will discover that." The Zephyrians were not the only ones who misunderstood human nature. Most of the aggressive species chose to back down after seeing the wreckage of the Zephyrian fleet. The few that didn't were dealt with swiftly and decisively. The galaxy learned that humanity's offer of peace was genuine, but so was their promise of retaliation against aggressors. 5 years later, Ambassador Lisa Turner stood before the first meeting of the Galactic Peace Council, an organization that would have been impossible before humanity revealed its true nature. Representatives from over 200 species had gathered to establish laws that would prevent future wars of conquest. "Today marks the beginning of a new era," she announced to the assembled delegates. "For too long, the galaxy has been ruled by fear and violence. Species have conquered each other not because they needed to, but because they could. That ends now. The humans had kept their promise. They had used their power not to build an empire, but to create something better. A galaxy where strength was used to protect the weak instead of exploiting them, where technology was shared to improve lives rather than hoarded to maintain dominance, where the choice to be peaceful was respected instead of seen as weakness. As Lisa looked out at the diverse collection of beings working together to build a better future, she remembered the words that had started it all. Earth's final warning to the Zephyrians had been simple: cease your attacks, or we stop pretending to be courteous. The galaxy had learned the lesson. When humans stopped pretending to be polite, they became the most dangerous force in known space. But when they chose to be genuinely peaceful, they became something even more powerful, a species that could inspire others to be better than they ever thought possible.